Alrighty, episode 309 of Backpacking America. Welcome. I'm trying to make this quick because my battery is on 20% and I do not charge this. So I just wanted to get on here to critique the Trump-Elon fallout for a few reasons. And the first thing that I have to say is that Elon has been saying that Trump is a pedophile because he was supposedly friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Being friends with the man and not knowing that he was a pedophile does not make Trump a pedophile. Trump, and this is the thing that really pisses me off about Elon and what he said. He said, I knew the whole time that Trump was on the flights and that Trump was hanging out with Epstein, and now I'm coming clean because we're no longer friends. You're not a hero in the situation if you know someone's doing something terrible and you're only hiding it because you were friends with the person. Like and this is even true, right? Because I personally don't believe Trump is a pedophile, and I don't believe Trump was fucking kids on Epstein's Island. So first off, if this was even true, that is something so terrible that no matter if even if that's your family, you should go to the police over that. You need to tell people about that. You can't just now say, because you're no longer friends with the guy, oh, he's a pedophile. Those are huge accusations. So that's just incredibly childish on his part. Although I don't really expect much from the man that openly admitted to overthrowing the government of Bolivia in order to get better lithium mining deals. But anyway, that's the first thing I have to say. The second thing I have to say about this is I think it's at a time when the Republican Party needs to be unified and put forward and stable. We're about a year away-ish from the midterm elections in this country. We need to be unified as a party if we're going to have any sort of continuance of the really great things this administration has done in the last in the last 6 months. Okay. Here's what's particularly frustrating about this too, right? Elon is saying that the big, beautiful bill, the omnibus bill, is wasteful and it's undermining everything that Doge has done. Now, I took a cursory look at what the bill is going to do. It does have massive spending increases. It does, and for the military, particularly the United States Navy. So that way we could boost up the Pacific Fleet in the Indochina Sea and put the Chinese at bay. That's the first thing that the bill does. It does cut a lot of other programs. It does cut a lot of wasteful spending, but it also spends some other things. Now, according to Elon Musk, the bill adds $5 trillion to the deficit. From what I saw in the bill, it allows the government to still increase the debt ceiling, but only as a possibility. It doesn't make it so that it definitively increases it. Now, is there problems with the bill? Sure. I haven't read the full bill. It's over 1,000 pages. I'm not reading that. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I ran it through ChatGPT, and I'm going to dedicate a whole episode to it next week about the omnibus bill, and I have it all in my notes. I was going to talk about it today, but unfortunately, I don't have a printer in my office, and I wrote the notes when I was at my office. So unfortunately, I'm so sorry about that. So we're just going to talk about Elon today. And this is the thing too, like a lot of people have been criticizing. We're also going to talk about the Job Corps thing too, because a lot of people have been freaking out about the Job Corps thing. And I actually did properly research Job Corps. But before we move on to that, Elon Musk doing this is really catastrophic to the party. And Trump and Elon have butt heads before, but this is detrimental to the party, in my opinion, because Elon is part of that big tent group where Trump brought in all of these people that he brought in all of these people to form a big tent in the Republican Party and unify all these different types of personalities that represent a lot of people around the United States. If we're losing people like that, we're already losing libertarians, but if we're losing people like that, the party's going to fall apart and it's just going to become a hard conservative party again. This cannot happen. Trump has to find a way to get Elon to chill the fuck out and bring him back into the fold, because this is going to cause a rift that the Republicans cannot afford. Now, the Democrats are in a horrible spot. They're in a bad spot. But if we're weak now and we fail to secure the midterm elections, the Make America Great Again movement is finished. It's not going to be in a good spot, because if we can't hold that on, what's going to happen in 2028? So we have to, we as a movement, as a nation, have to hold together. And Elon doing that is just really selfish. Then again, what can I expect from the guy that overthrew the Bolivian government for better lithium deals? I mean, I don't know. He's the same guy that says that he bought Twitter for free speech and then bans accounts that he doesn't like. I was never an Elon fanboy. I was never a Tesla guy. I did like the spirit and energy he has. I like that, but there's a lot of things he does when shit gets real that really pisses me off. And this is one of those things where he plays the victim and he gets all defensive and whiny. Or, if he wants a better deal, he's simply going to overthrow a country to get a better deal. I'm not a fan of that behavior. So I like a lot of things and I hate a lot of things that he does. Another thing in particular that people have been ragging on Trump about too with these budget cuts is Job Corps. He didn't end the Job Corps program. What he did was he looked at all the underperforming Job Corps centers in the country and said, okay, we're shutting down the underperforming ones. And they were underperforming because there was high rates of violence, and in particular, high rates of sexual assault in over 50 of these centers. So he shut those down. Job Corps is not supposed to be profit oriented. It's literally supposed to train underprivileged youth to go and, get degrees in the trade, so that way they can get a trade and job security when they're done with the program. And the program's great because it offers dormitory housing for these underprivileged youth. Now, currently there's 65,000 students enrolled in the program, and some of these students are going to have to be relocated to other centers to finish out their training. That doesn't mean Job Corps is shutting down. What it means is they're shutting down the centers that are underperforming due to violence. And they're probably going to reassess what's going on and then reopen the programs once everything is secure there. So that's really what's going on with Job Corps. Job Corps is not getting shut down. And, people like to attack the Trump admin mostly based off of, they'll see oh, we're shutting down. We're taking this measure over here to stop this problem. They're saying, oh, they're going to destroy everything. Much like with illegal immigration, they're going to take American citizens and deport them. No American citizens have been deported. And the people that are being called citizens are people that had some sort of visa that expired a year or two ago, and they overstayed their visa or they overstayed their H-1B program, and they're no longer legally allowed in the country. So they're not deporting American citizens. They're deporting people that overstayed their legal privilege to stay in this country. So it's not going to turn to The Handmaid's Tale or Nazi Germany by deporting people that are illegally here. They're not supposed to be in this country, so they have to go home, and they're being sent home. They're not being sent to a concentration camp, and not every illegal immigrant is getting sent to Secot in El Salvador. The people getting sent to Secot are people that are gang members and are proven gang members. Well, how are they proven? There was no trial. They're not American citizens. So they're not entitled to a trial here, at least to my knowledge. But even so, I mean, they're caught in a violent act, and then they have the gang tattoos, the MS-13 tattoos, the teardrops and shit, so they're taken, detained, questioned, and deported. And it's easy to find out if someone's an American citizen or not. Do you have a social security card? No. You don't even know your social security number? Okay, let's look up your name in the social security database. Oh, you're not here. You're not an American citizen. Bye. It's very easy to look up when you're law enforcement. They have access to databases that the average citizen does not have access to. So it's very easy to take these people and fucking deport them because they're obviously not citizens. And then the left is also complaining, saying, oh, that ICE is waiting outside of courtrooms for immigration hearings. Yeah, and then they're deporting people. Yeah, because they're not supposed to be in this country. So yes, they're getting deported. It doesn't matter if they're in the middle of litigation. They're proven not to be citizens. You are not an American citizen. You're not allowed to be here. You're not entitled to the same rights and privileges that an American citizen is entitled. Now, if that happened to someone like myself or someone else that is an American citizen and we got deported, then it would be like, okay, well, that's obviously an American citizen and you fucked up. You have to go get that citizen out of there because it's proven they're citizens. They have a social security card. They have a driver's license. They have a voting record. They have high school diplomas and college diplomas and elementary graduation certificate. Like, it's like there's a history. So a lot of people don't understand this too, where it's just so stupid. Like there's just so many generalizations and fake outrage over this. And this is what's silly too, right? So the left is all about immigration and all about Black Lives Matter and all this stuff. But then when it comes to the women in their movement, they're silent. When Roe v. Wade got overturned, which I disagree with Roe v. Wade getting overturned. It should be the law of the land. But apparently the court ruled that, and even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that the ruling for Roe was flawed and it would be overturned eventually. And I still blame the Democrats for not solidifying that when they had a unified government in 2012. But anyway, that's besides the point. When Roe was turned back to the state level, there were no protests. There was like a protest for a week and then they disappeared. But then they're burning down cities for black men and Palestine and illegal immigrants. Well, where's the outrage when their own bodies were being fucked with, when their bodily autonomy was being fucked with? And, apparently that's not like Nazi Germany. So, and this is the thing too about calling everything fascistic and Nazi. Okay. You're calling everything fascist. Okay. And then you're not like treating everything like it's fascism. So if everything is a fascist action, why is everything not taken just as seriously? Calling something fascist is literally degraded what it means to be a fascist, what it means to be a Nazi or a tyrannical person. And I really hate that. And I'm talking very fast because my camera's like on 11%. I forgot to charge it today. So you're calling everything fascistic and it loses its meaning, because when actual fascism comes to this country, no one's going to believe it and no one's going to care. And they may even say, oh, yeah, well, then I'm a fascist, which is happening now. I mean, look at Kanye West. Everyone's using the word fascist and Nazi and dictator so loosely and fluidly that everyone becomes a Nazi. So then they embrace Nazism. And people are surprised. It's like, no, you could disagree with Donald Trump. You could say, I think he's heavy-handed. I think he's personally motivated. I don't think he has the best interests of the country. I think this is unconstitutional. That makes sense. That's all fine. Those are all fair critiques. And some of them are very fair critiques. But that doesn't mean he's a Nazi. Like, I hated Joe Biden. I critiqued his policies as unconstitutional, is not following party decorum during the primaries. I said that there were, legal flaws in his COVID policy. I critiqued his Afghanistan withdrawal. I critiqued the gun control he passed, which was unconstitutional. But I never called him a dictator. I never called him a Nazi, and I never called him a fascist. I called him a lot of other things, but he wasn't those things. He's not a Nazi. He's not a fascist. Joe Biden is a fucking idiot, and he's personally motivated and party motivated, and he's driven more by the power of the presidency than he is by the good of the United States and the rule of law in this country. And you could apply the same things in certain situations to Donald Trump. I could see like a heavy, Donald Trump is heavy-handed. Okay, yeah, he is heavy-handed. That's a valid criticism or a point of praise. I like that he's heavy-handed. I like that he's a man of action. Other people don't like that, and they value more of a drawn-out legal process before an action is taken. I like that he's heavy-handed. Now, when we look at executive orders, I think it's great that he was signing executive orders. However, I can also see from the point of view of the liberals and more moderate people that he's he shouldn't be signing executive orders like that, and he should be better than his predecessors and then push everything through an act of Congress. I understand that. However, a lot of the executive orders that Joe Biden signed were illegal or sketchy or dubious, and Donald Trump's just returning the energy. We're at the point in American history where returning energy is just where we're at right now. Like, okay, well, the last administration did this. Well, we're going to do that and see how they like it. Weaponizing the DOJ. That's something that Obama did. Well, really, Bush did. And then Obama did it, and then Trump did it, and then Biden did it, and then Trump's escalating it more. So, right, for the next maybe 5-10 years, we're going to still be continuing this back and forth until it peters out again. So there's a lot of criticisms that can be made. That was a great criticism, I believe, that I made. And, it didn't call either one a fascist, a tyrannical individual, or a retard or whatever. It was just, I don't like certain things that they're doing, and I'm concerned by the nature in which things are happening. And that's fine. But that's not calling them a fascist, because I know what a fascist is. And I've defined fascism many times throughout the history of 5 years on this show. Actually, it's been 6 years now. It's been 6 years come May that I've been doing the show. I've talked about fascism many, 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 many times. And I just, I'm tired of defining it. So listen to the previous episodes if you want my definition. But that's not fascism. I don't think the Trump administration is being given enough of a chance. I think that people are focused on just destroying the administration and not hoping for the best interest of the country, instead of actually just sitting there and saying, hey, listen, you know what? We're going to critique these policies. No, they're going to critique the whole presidency and be anti-American. And it's to the point where people are borderline aligning with, or openly aligning with, terrorism just because they hate Donald Trump, because he says mean things and he's heavy-handed in his approach. Just give the guy a shot. It's a new administration. It's much different than his old administration, which is focused on heavy conservatism and evangelicalism. This is more of a big tent party. This is focused more on unifying America. He's got Bobby Kennedy on his team. He's got Tulsi Gabbard on his team. He's got Kash Patel. He's got Pete Davidson, Pete Davidson, the Trump administration would be fucking insane. I think Kanye West would actually lead a march on Rome at that point. And then we got Dan Bongino. So we have a lot of interesting people, new faces, inexperienced, and I think it's great, and it's what this country needs. And I think we need to give it a shot. They're very open to talking to the people directly. They're the most transparent administration I've seen. They've declassified documents I never thought I would see in my lifetime. And they are really looking to make this a better country for the American people. No tax on tips, rebuilding the United States Navy, cutting DEI programs and allowing for lawsuits against reverse discrimination, which does exist. I am very qualified, especially when I was graduating college. I had 5 years of work experience in the field. I had my college degree. I had this podcast. And I couldn't get a corporate job in my field after 500 applications. So I just said, fuck it. I'm just going to open my own company. I had a job at a local radio station out of college, and I worked there for 2 years. And I just knew that I hit the ceiling at that point and no one else was going to hire me. So I started my own company. And I think that, and that's because of the culture at the time. They didn't want white guys. They didn't want educated white men that were vocal working in corporate America. So I just said, or in the media. So I just said, you know what, whatever. I'm going to just do my own thing. And I wasn't even a right winger at the time. I was very far to the left, and that's no secret. You could listen to previous episodes. I used to be a leftist, and it wasn't until that I was canceled in college and then I wasn't getting job prospects that I realized all this leftist bullshit was just me fucking myself over and fighting for people that couldn't give a shit about me, whether I lived or died or, succeeded economically or not. So what was the point? Which is why I just had a realization, and I just kind of came back to common sense. And I really do believe that, that model is why, it worked out. I have a business that's successful, but it's really great that people can now sue for reverse discrimination, and colleges are being penalized by prioritizing race over anything else. I had excellent grades in high school. I had a 93 GPA, and I couldn't get into Stony Brook University for art. So, and they didn't even ask for a portfolio. So it wasn't even, there was nothing to base my skill on at the time. They were just like, yeah, we don't want you. But if you go to Stony Brook, it's all foreign students and very few domestic American students. So it's ridiculous. A lot of people in my position can sympathize with this, and that's why overwhelmingly white men and black men voted for Donald Trump, and Latino men voted for Donald Trump, because men in general and white men in particular were discriminated against for far too long in this country and told we were evil and horrible and sexist and racist, when all we were doing was just most of us just playing video games in our basement and trying to just earn $1 and be left alone. So that if that made us racist, then and no wonder. I mean, look at the way the culture is now. That's a whole other can of worms too, where we could talk about sexism and racism and all these other things. But a lot of people in general feel that if we're racist and sexist and whatever, we might as well be it. And that's also dangerous too. And that's why the left lost, because people realized that the left was pushing the race issue to the point where it was coming to open conflict. Anyway, my camera's about to die. I wish I could extrapolate more on the points that I just made. Maybe that'll be in another episode. But this was episode 309 of Backpacking America. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time.